What would you do if the choice in front of you was safety or survival rules or mercy paperwork or people, and the whole site was watching you decide in real time? Because that was me, and the words that left my mouth that day still ring in my ears. My name's Kenneth. I build the kind of houses folks crane their necks to stare at when traffic stalls on Third Mainland glass catching the last fire of the Lego sun. Floors that look like you could ice skate on them, contracts thick enough to use as doorstops, and yeah, the cars, the penthouse, the watch that keeps better time than my heart sometimes. You know what I mean? And still, the loneliest sound in my life was the echo of my own shoes crossing a room that had everything in it except a reason to stay. The night before this all began, my girlfriend Agnes was pacing my living room, like she owned the lease on the air. Are you even listening to me, Kenneth? Handbag tossed onto cream leather perfume, heavy as judgment, and I said the wrong calm words, the ones that make someone like her feel invisible. She wanted Paris, selfies, Dubai, skylines, Milan, shopping bags stacked like trophies. I told her I'd just bought her a car last month. She laughed like I'd handed her a coupon. I didn't sign up to date. A bricklayer, she said. And that one hit because I don't lay bricks. I lay foundations for people, for jobs, for families. But when someone boils your life down to dust and sweat and men in hard hats, it stings. If it were you, what would you have said? I told her I picked peace over drama. She told me I'd never have peace without her. The door slammed, the echo stayed, and I stood there with a glass of scotch going warm in my hand, staring out at a city that kept moving, whether my heart did or not. I slept in pieces, woke up early, tied my life back on like a tie, and drove to the site. The site wakes up before the city does. You can smell cement before you smell coffee. You hear rebar clatter like a warning, whistles slicing the air, men moving with a rhythm. You can't teach in a boardroom. And I do what I always do. I sweep the place with my eyes scaffolding straight nets. Tight mixers grounded, because safety isn't a slogan to me. It's a religion. You break it. People bleed, and then I saw her. She was 28. If life had been kind younger, if it hadn't carrying a bucket of water that would make your shoulders burn, twins tied to her back with a wrapper. Two little girls in faded blue dresses, braids neat, eyes wide. The kind of quiet kids carry when they're learning a new room. The hard way, my manager Elias hovered a step behind her, hands half raised like he wanted to help. But the rules had his wrists, and I heard my voice before I felt my mouth move. "Stop it!" Came out like a siren, tools froze, a hammer hung in midair. She turned slow, set the bucket down like it was a sleeping baby, sweat bright on her forehead, and said, "Sir, please, the way people say it, when the floor is already disappearing under their feet. I have nowhere to leave them. If I don't work, they won't eat. I can fetch water, carry sand, anything. Here's the ugly truth. Construction sites chew up seconds and spit out regret. One slip, one block, one driver who didn't see a small body, and it's over." So the lawyer in my head stood up and spoke for me. "This is not my problem," I said. "You cannot be here with children. You're fired. Leave now." And I turned to Elias because I didn't have the courage to look at her when I took away the one thing she had left that day. "Yeah, I said that you can judge me, maybe you should." Pattern interrupt, I felt right for 10 minutes. Then the rightness curdled into something I couldn't swallow. That night, the house was too quiet, the kind of quiet where you can hear your heartbeat getting on your nerves. Agnes was gone, and that should have felt like relief, but all I could see were two blue dresses and a woman kneeling in dust. While I walked away, I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again, finally called Elias. "Who is she?" I asked. And he told me her name was Peace Husband, gone 2 years, accident. No family, twins, 3 years old. Work is work is work. When you're trying to keep small stomachs from asking questions, you can't answer. The words I'd said that morning played back in my head like a bad loop and not my problem, and shame showed up like a bill collector. If it were you, would you have doubled down, told yourself the rules are the rules, or would you have done what I did next? Next morning, I told Elias to get in the car. No sidewalk, no clipboard. We drove off the paved road into a neighborhood where the dust hangs like a held breath. Kids ran barefoot beside the SUV like it was a parade. We stopped at a one-room house with a curtain for a door and walls that remembered rain. The hard way inside, Peace was mending a tiny dress with thread. Like Patience, the twins on the floor playing with bottle caps, making cities out of scrap. She stood so fast, the stool skidded, braced herself like the next blow was coming. I had to clear my throat because the words I needed weren't the ones I was used to. "May I come in?" I asked, and that sounded strange coming out of me. She nodded, and I stepped into a room with almost nothing in it that somehow felt more honest than any marble hall I'd ever walked. I told her I'd been harsh, that I meant what I said about danger, because if anything had happened on my sight, I would never forgive myself. She nodded, eyes on the twins. "I understand," she said, "but I had no choice, and the truth of it sat in the room with us like a fourth person." I looked at those small hands, those careful eyes, and I made a call. I didn't run by legal finance or common sense. "I have a big house," I said, "too big. I live alone, I need a cleaner. You can bring your girls, there's space, I'll pay you a salary. It will be safe if you want the job. Silence can be heavy or holiness." This one was both. Her hand rose to cover her mouth, like the prayer had found its answer. "Sir," she whispered, "I prayed for help. Maybe God sent you." We packed a small bag, a pot, the dress she'd been fixing, and I opened the SUV door like it was a doorway into a different map of her life. "My place can make you feel small, I know that. Ceilings too high, floors that flash your reflection like they're scolding you," but I said, "Welcome home," and it didn't feel like a lie. The twins clung to her legs. I crouched, so I wasn't towering over their fear. "I'm Kenneth," I said. "You can call me Uncle Kenneth if you like." 2 candies from my pocket, a peace treaty wrapped in sugar. Small fingers reached, small heads nodded a beginning. Peace cleaned like prayer, not frantic, not performative, just steady room by room. She knew where to put things I didn't even know I owned. I told her not to cook, that we'd order in, that she shouldn't waste money on ingredients. She nodded, and then the next day she cooked anyway. Rice and stew, simple, bright, honest. She packed a container like she was smuggling warmth into a house that had forgotten what it was for. "You did this anyway," I smiled. "I thought you might like a home-cooked meal," she said, eyes a little shy. And I took that first bite and remembered suddenly what my grandmother's kitchen sounded like on Sundays. That happened. The twins thawed, slow curiosity uncoiling. I rolled a toy car across the marble and told them the bravest driver always wins. Lola laughed. Tommy hid and then didn't, and my office stopped being the only room where my heart knew how to beat. Evenings came with the soft click of building blocks on tile. Mornings started to smell like soap and hope pattern interrupt. Then the front gate screamed like a bad omen. Alice walked in like lightning that had learned to wear heels, perfect hair, perfect tone, eyes scanning for something to hate, and she found it fast. "Who are these little rats?" she said, pointing at the girls, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Peace stepped forward, one hand on each daughter's shoulder, calm, even with anger tight in her jaw. "Please don't call my children rats," she said, voice steady. "They are 3. This is our home too, in a way." Alice laughed sharp. "Our home, you're the cleaner, know your place," and that was the moment I realized the line I'd been dancing around had a name. "Alice, enough," I said, low and flat, the kind of voice that ends meetings. "You will show respect in this house." She rolled her eyes like she'd sprained something. "You're joking. You bring a woman from the street into your mansion with her brats, and I'm the one who has to show respect." The twins flinched at brats. He swallowed hard and stood taller, and I told Alice to go to the bedroom while I handled it. Because fights like this don't need an audience. They need a decision. That night, Peace made jollof with fried chicken, and the smell did what smell does, turned walls into witnesses. We ate at the table, me Peace, the girls. And for the first time that room felt earned. Alice watched from the corner, arms crossed, foot tapping. So the maid cooks now and plays lady of the house, she sneered. What am I then? And I said the quiet truth out loud. You left. Remember, you didn't want this life, the dust, the workers, the so-called bricklayer. Don't mock someone for doing what you refused to do. She wasn't used to that mirror. The next few days were a storm that wouldn't find the ocean complaints at full volume. Little digs aimed like darts, the twins shrinking again, until their play felt like an apology. Peace held her ground, with the calm of someone who knows what matters. Shouted comebacks, just clear boundaries around two small hearts. And then midweek, after a day where the sun had cooked the sight, and my patience in the same pan I came home to, crying behind a curtain, and Alice in the middle of the room like the cause and the cure. You turned this mansion into a daycare, she said. Is this what you call peace? And the word stuck in my chest. Here's the twist, and it isn't what you think. I thought the story was about me saving. Peace turns out, peace was saving me because in that moment I saw the man I used to be, making room for noise. Because I was scared of silence, letting status speak for me, because I was afraid to use my own voice. I looked at her girls, at the woman who had brought laughter into a house that echoed, and I chose. You should leave. I told Alice, not cruel, not loud, just done, this is my home, and I won't allow anyone to mistreat these children or their mother. Under my roof, she blinked like I'd switched languages. You're choosing them over me, and I said, I'm choosing dignity over noise, a home over a showroom. She grabbed her bag, the door slammed its last word, and the whole house exhaled. Peace tucked the girls in. That night, I stood in the hallway, listening to the tiny rhythm of sleep. She came to the living room, eyes tired but bright. And we didn't say much because not saying much was enough. The days that followed were quieter, then warmer, then good. Not expensive, good. Not Instagram, good. Just good breakfast with giggles, afternoons with crayons, evenings where someone waited for my answer after asking how my day really was, and I stopped pretending I didn't like it. I tried to fight what I was feeling, told myself stories about boundaries and optics and what people would say. But one evening, I came home and found the twins arguing about whether a stick man needed fingers, and Peace laughing with her whole face. And the truth didn't ask for permission anymore. It walked into the room and sat down. I found her later folding clothes, the room soft. The night kind, and I said, Stop calling me sir. She smiled, confused. You're my employer, and I shook my head. No. Not just that, you've become the heart of this home. You and the girls gave me a kind of peace I didn't know how to ask for. I don't want to imagine this house or my life without you. I pulled a velvet box from my pocket. Simple ring, no billboard attached. Peace, will you marry me? Her hands stopped. Her mouth opened, eyes bright with that heavy, holy silence again, and she whispered, yes. Like a prayer that finally reached the end without a door slamming in its face. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. People talk, of course they do. Some friends congratulated me with their teeth clenched. Others asked about optics, like love needs a publicist, a partner on a project, suggested a more professional plan for childcare. A man I barely like pulled me aside at a gala and warned me that men in my position don't do this if they want to keep their position. I smiled, thanked him for the free fear, went home to jollof, and tiny drawings on the fridge, and slept better than I had in years. We built a new routine, not expensive, just deliberate. The girls run to the door. When my car crunches, the gravel, homework is announced, like breaking news, date night. Sometimes means a slow walk around the block, and it's enough. We say I was wrong sooner. We say thank you louder. We line up little shoes at the door like soldiers who won the day. And when work tries to teach me, I should be embarrassed by joy. I take a breath and choose the sound of blocks on tile over the applause of rooms that never clapped for the right reasons anyway. Do you think that's fair that people can look at a family and see a headline instead, that someone can call children rats and expect the world to nod along? If it were you, what would you have said to Alice? What would you have said to me? The day I fired their mother, I know what I'd say to the man. I was safety without compassion. Is just fear in a hard hat. Rules are useful until they become excuses, and the richest rooms can be the emptiest if nobody laughs in them. Here's the part that will split the comments, and I'm not mad at it. Companies preach safety until compassion gets expensive. We hide behind liability like it's a saint, and then we wonder why people choose hunger over rules. I'm not saying toss the book. I'm saying write a chapter for days when the math doesn't include mercy, because if your policy can't make room for life, then all you're building is paperwork, and I don't want to live there. I started this by asking what you do when it's safety or survival rules or mercy, and here's the answer I live by now. You build a third door, a place where safety doesn't mean shut out. It means step in differently, a place where a woman named Peace can put her girls to bed and not listen for sirens in her head. A place where a man like me can admit that he needed saving too. Yeah, that happened. So tell me all the way honest, if it were you, day one on that site, would you have fired her like I did, or found another way? And day two, would you have driven to that one-room home or driven past it? Do you think that's fair, the way we weigh people against policies, the way we let optics outrank kindness? I want to hear you argue with me, agree with me, tell me your own story about the day you chose compassion and the world called you crazy, or the day you didn't and you still carry it. Drop your thoughts, your fire, your pushback in the comments. Share this with someone who needs proof that compassion isn't weakness, it's architecture. If this hit you in the chest, the way it still hits me, like and subscribe, because we're going to keep telling the kind of stories that make the world argue and maybe just maybe change.